Okay, let's just jump right in. Today we're going through a pretty mysterious fable that, honestly, holds the absolute key to understanding human procrastination and self-trust. We're unpacking a deeply moving story called The Museum of Forgotten Promises. Now, on the surface, this might just seem like a simple little tale, but as we break it down in this explainer today, you're going to see it's actually a brilliant mirror reflecting how we handle our own personal commitments. It's a concept that will fundamentally change how you view the things you tell yourself you're going to do.
So we start off with our protagonist. He's a highly skeptical young guy named Arjun. He hears these wild rumors about an unadvertised, totally hidden museum right in the middle of an ancient city. I mean, there are no guidebooks that mention it, and yet word on the street is that everyone who enters comes out in tears. Arjun, naturally, kind of laughs at this. He asks a perfectly logical question: how on earth can a museum make people cry? It beautifully sets the stage for the deeply personal revelation we're about to see unfold.
Which brings us to Section 1, the Hidden Museum.
Arjun's curiosity actually ends up getting the better of his skepticism. On a rainy evening, he wanders through the ancient city, steps through the doors of a very ordinary-looking building, and finds this haunting inscription carved right into the stone. It says, "Every promise lives until you abandon it." Inside, the museum is completely, utterly silent. There are no classical paintings on the walls, no fancy marble statues. Instead, the whole space is just filled with thousands upon thousands of glass display cases.
Let's look at Section 2, Exhibits of Abandoned Dreams.
As he's walking the aisles, Arjun notices something really peculiar. These glass cases, they don't contain historical artifacts. They just hold ordinary stuff. We're talking a dusty running shoe, an untouched guitar, a faded notebook, a passport. And the labels aren't the names of previous owners. They're actually the broken promises themselves. Things like, "I'll start exercising on Monday," or "I'll learn to play piano," "I'll tell my father I'm proud," "I'll travel when life slows down." These are quite literally left-behind dreams. At this point, an old curator steps out of the shadows to explain exactly what Arjun has stumbled into.
The curator explains that this bizarre place doesn't collect physical objects at all. The actual collection is broken promises. Basically, the museum houses the exact moments people quietly forgot the commitments they made to themselves. The curator then leads Arjun out of the entryway and into this endless hall with millions of cases stretching way farther than the eye can see. They belong to absolutely everyone. Feeling the heavy weight of the room, Arjun nervously laughs and asks the natural question, so, where exactly might his own display be?
Moving to Section 3, the cost of delay. Well, rather than answering Arjun's nervous laughter with a joke, the curator just points a finger toward a brand new glass case nearby. Inside are a pair of running shoes labeled "I'll get fit next month," a notebook reading "I'll finally write my story," and a camera alongside a small business card tagged with "I'll start my dream business." Arjun freezes. Just absolute terror. He realizes those are his items. He is still alive, his heart is racing, and he's wondering, why are my dreams already encased in glass like they're dead and gone?
The curator looks right at him and delivers this profound gut punch of a truth. The museum doesn't wait until you die. It records the moment you stop believing your own promises. Wow, right? That is the exact moment Arjun realizes that no one stole his dreams. There were no external villains holding him back. He had simply delayed them, again and again, until they became permanent exhibits.
I want you to mirror Arjun for a second and really think about your own life. Because we do this all the time, right? We constantly feed ourselves the illusion, "Oh, I'm just delaying it for later." But the stark reality is usually, I've stopped believing in it entirely. So ask yourself right now, what is currently sitting in your own display case under the guise of just being delayed? It is a really tough question to confront, but recognizing that illusion, that's the very first step out of the museum.
Luckily, there is a way out. Success isn't some magical state where you never break a promise. It's simply the act of returning to your promises before that glass closes forever. Pointing out both dusty and brand new cases belonging to famous business people, teachers, world champions, you name it, the curator explains a fascinating rule of this place. When successful people finally act, their displays don't stay trapped. They just completely disappear.
Let's look at Section 4, Rebuilding Trust Through Action.
That incredible realization sparks a massive fire in Arjun. He literally sprints out of the museum back into the city. And the next morning, he doesn't try to change his entire life at once in some crazy, overwhelming wave of motivation. Actually, scratch that, he just takes 3 simple steps.
In the morning, he just put on the running shoes. In the afternoon, he wrote a single page of his story. And in the evening, he made a quick phone call to his father to say, "I'm proud of you." It's not about grand sweeping gestures. It's about immediate, tiny, ordinary actions that literally chip away at that glass. That evening phone call to his father brings a really emotional pause to our story. After Arjun speaks, there's just silence on the line. And then his father quietly replies, "I've waited years to hear those words." This is such a beautiful piece of the puzzle. It proves the real-world, intimate impact of finally keeping a delayed promise. It doesn't just change your internal landscape, you know? It deeply, deeply impacts the people you love.
Over the following months, we see the very realistic progression of his journey. Day 1 started with those small initial actions, but as the months roll on, he consistently keeps his promises. Look, he doesn't do it perfectly, but he does it honestly. And then, exactly 1 year later, the timeline culminates with him returning to the museum. He walks with the curator to the exact spot where his terrifying display case used to be, and it's completely gone.
In place of his broken promises and that glass case, only a small plaque remains on an empty pedestal. And it reads, "This promise became reality because someone chose action over excuses." What a powerful summary of his transformation. There was no magic trick that cleared his case. It was simply the sheer force of repeated, honest action.
Before leaving the museum for good, Arjun asks the curator one final, lingering question. Out of the millions of cases in this endless hall, what is the saddest exhibit he has ever seen? The curator looks down and whispers his answer. The promises people kept making. To themselves. Man, that hits incredibly hard. Because we are so quick to view breaking a promise to someone else as a huge moral failure, right? But we effortlessly, almost casually, excuse breaking a promise to our own hearts.
To distill this entire explainer into our core takeaways, let's look at the real moral of self-trust here. Look, every broken promise fades your confidence. It just chips away at it. Conversely, every kept promise rebuilds that self-trust. The world out there might only remember your big outward achievements, but your heart remembers if it can actually trust your word. The grand takeaway from all of this? Stop making bigger, impossible promises. Start keeping the small ones. That is exactly how you rebuild your internal confidence, piece by piece.
Since a life of extraordinary success is built on totally ordinary promises that were never forgotten, I'm going to leave you with this final critical thought to act on right now. What small promise are you going to keep today? Seriously, don't wait for the glass case to close on your ambitions. Choose action over excuses, rebuild that self-trust today, and hey, I will catch you in the next explainer.